Hey everyone, I'm going to start my podcast for this evening in just a little bit. So hold on tight. I'm just going to tweet this video. Then I'm going to cut up some cheese and enjoy some wine while I share some of my travel updates, along with some travel tips specifically for African American or Black American women, because I have been having such a good time traveling. And I think a lot of other Black American women would have as good of a time as myself, but they're afraid to travel solo. So we're going to talk about that a little bit this evening. But I hope all of you are having a good night. I definitely am. And just give me a few moments. Let's see. And remember, you can always follow me on Twitter at Alex Mayers Live. All right. Got that going. Let me open the chat. Okie dokie, here we go. All right, so I'm just gonna cut up some cheese real quick and I'll be right back. All right, peeps, just one moment. All right, I'm back. Welcome once more to another video podcast of Alexandra Mayers Live. Remember, you can always follow me on Twitter at Alex Mayers Live. This is an IRL travel update, but also this evening I want to share some travel tips specifically for African American women who may have the desire, such as I did, to travel cross country solo. That can be a little bit of a scary thing to do, but hopefully some of my tips will ease your fears, because truthfully, solo travel as a Black woman, or as a woman in general, a woman of any ethnicity, is a lot easier than you think. People tend to be very welcoming to you when you're a woman who's middle-aged, such as myself. I'm 41 years old. And even if you travel to an area to where there are not many people of color, for the most part, people in America are not racist. If you look at the news and everything, the media paints a different picture. Actually, some of the most racist people are people who are of color lineage, but who are passing as white. And over the next few days, we're going to talk about that a little bit in regards to a streamer who initially I was a fan of, but at this point, I think that some legalities need to come down against him, a streamer known as OG Geezer, because he is inciting violence against people of color, namely African Americans, and it needs to come to a stop. At first, I thought that his racism jokes were a meme, but they're not. He's doing some very negative, bad things, and is specifically targeting, from my perspective, men of color, black men. And that is not acceptable. If he wants to do that, then I think that he needs to leave the United States of America. But we're going to talk about that another podcast. On a positive note, I want to thank very much Landon Tells, the IRL recapper, for basically making the decision not to feed into some bullying that a young woman is trying to manifest against me, since I have decided to visit the Las Vegas, Nevada area in the long term. To Landon Tells, I sincerely apologize for misjudging you and for unjustly labeling you a pedo. That was incredibly wrong and irresponsible on my part. I sincerely apologize. I deserve a spanking for that shit. I have deleted what I thought were funny, critical videos of you, but maybe you didn't think that they were funny. I decided to take those off the PNT, Porn News Today, YouTube channel. And the only video that I think I have up in regards to you has to do with the single white female situation revolving around the young woman who you basically shut down on your recent podcast, attempting to emulate your beautiful girlfriend, Lucy. And I'm going to keep that one up because I think it's important for people to understand that you are in a healthy and happy relationship with Lucy. I think she's a beautiful, very high quality young woman. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Some people actually might criticize something that Landon said to me in regards to me possibly visiting Cornwall and visiting there because they don't have a lot of in-call prostitutes in those parts. Let me tell you something. First off, I'm not a prostitute. I'm not a sex worker. Have not worked in the adult entertainment industry as a performer in over a decade. But being that I'm a woman in her early 40s, and you think that in some way, shape, or form, I could possibly earn an income from being a prostitute nowadays, thank you for the compliment. Thank you very much. Because that's a young girl's game. But if you think that this could generate some income in that world, hey, I'm not going to knock that. I'm not going to knock that at all. All right, so let me look at the chat very quickly. All right, someone asked if I'm on Parler. No, I'm not, but many people have suggested that I do make an account on there. All right, Lakeisha Harris says, but when getting approached by non-black men during travel, they only seem to want one thing. Well, I'm not traveling to really meet men. That's not my agenda. I think I exude a vibe for the most part that says, stay away. Stay away, men. I think I do. I haven't had anyone approach me since I've been traveling since early September in a negative, lecherous kind of way yet. For the most part, men won't do that unless you go into a singles bar, or you go on a singles cruise, or you're just putting yourself in a situation to where you're inviting that kind of attention. All right. All right. Someone just said, okay, someone says, if you ever traveled the world, you would find out shits are racist as F, the trashier the country you visit. You are correct. And when you're traveling in America, I suggest, as a Black woman or a woman of color, you don't necessarily have to be African American to have dark skin. You could be Latina, you could be Southeast Asian, you could be of East Indian descent, you could be of Australian Aboriginal descent. But I suggest you visit places that are middle class or higher. Usually, if you're a woman of color who decides to travel throughout America, by default, you are of middle class to begin with, or higher. But I don't suggest you go to poor areas, because usually in poor areas, that is where there is the most animosity towards people of color because of competition between the various ethnic groups. Now, you may visit a fairly poor area, but to where the people are okay with living below the normal means. Oklahoma, for example, I was there briefly. Oklahoma is predominantly Caucasian, white. My hosts were white, and they were some of the kindest people I think I've met, considering that I actually got there at the wrong time. I got bombarded with that ice storm, which really hadn't happened at that time of year in over a decade in that area. That was scary. But my hosts were white Americans, and they were incredibly kind to me. So I think you just kind of got to go as a single solo woman traveler of color to places that don't have a reputation for killing Black people, perhaps. Maybe that's what it is. But usually also, the higher the level of education of a place that you visit, the better it's going to be for you. So something else to think about. Spade and Billiards says, I saw somewhere on Instagram how Eddie Griffin making jokes on interracial. It was in a good way, not bad. Okay. Tanika, yeah, spanking. I'm a little dirty with my terminology. Not too bad, but a little bit. Hi, dwarf vagina. How are you doing? I am having a good night. All right, so let's get some travel tips. But first, cheers, everybody. Cheers. Hope all of you are enjoying your favorite beverage wherever it is that you are in the world as well. I'm actually really excited to be in the Vegas area because everything here is 24 hours. If I wake up and I feel like having sushi at 2:30 in the morning, I can do it. Haven't done that in a while. But that's where I am right now. I'm in the Nevada, Las Vegas area. I'm not sure exactly for how long. I am considering moving here to have a home base again for at least 6 months. But before I make that decision, I want to continue to the West Coast a bit and not go too far north because we are in the winter time. But we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, a travel tip for all single women, not just women of color. I cannot emphasize enough that rather than booking a traditional hotel, you may want to look into booking a guest house in the various locations that you visit, okay? Or an independently rented apartment, because you are just going to be so much more comfortable if you do. Usually you'll be a lot more safe. I personally prefer guest houses, and keep in mind, guest house rentals are generally the same price as if you were to book a hotel or something. But I like renting guest houses because generally your host put forth a lot of extra effort to ensure that you're comfortable and safe. Usually you're in a neighborhood that is safe. Guest houses, in my opinion, are a lot more sanitary and cleaner than a hotel would be. From my experience, most guest houses are someone's hobby. Okay, and that's what makes them extra special. First off, they're always uniquely decorated, which is always fun to look at and everything. But usually it's like a husband and a wife who are running the guest house. Sometimes it might be a husband and a husband or a wife and a wife, but regardless, usually the person who is the stay-at-home partner, the guest house is totally their hobby. Okay. A lot of times the guest homes are run by retired people who have children that are grown or in college or something. So, at least from my experience, I've always been treated like I'm their surrogate adopted child. Maybe because I look a little young for my age too, but I have always been treated very well by hosts of guest homes. I've just always found them to be a lot more convenient, and I've always had better night's sleep opposed to being in a hotel. I'm not against hotels. Hotels are okay, but I just prefer guest homes for traveling, and just mainly from the safety aspect. I think a lot of people don't like guest houses because there's a lot of rules, but I'm not a rule breaker. I'm just not, and I'm not looking to have a party or anything. I'm actually probably an ideal guest because I'm very clean, very neat, single woman, quiet. Um, that's me. So, yeah. Thank you, Tanika. Thank you, Tanika. You're sweet. Hello, CT. I'm okay if you tag me on Instagram, Spade. That's fine. Someone says to travel with a knife and bear spray. If I go to Alaska, I will do that. Or if I go anywhere super remote. Okay. Someone says that they like where I am right now. Okay. Thanks, Spade. Um, you have to pick and choose when you break your rules, okay? And that all comes back down to living responsibly. When you're in your 20s, definitely have fun, okay? That's when you really get a feel for what the world is. But when you hit your 30s, that's when you gotta figure out who you really want to be. And when you're in your 40s, you're just kind of trying to hold on to that last bit of energy you got in order to finish achieving your goals or attaining whatever it is that you want to attain. That's what it is. So, so let's see. Over the next few days, I'm going to do some live streams. And they will specifically be IRL streams because I do want the IRL community to see an IRL stream through a 41-year-old Black woman's eyes. I think that some of the IRL streamers depict Las Vegas in a very unrealistic way, to where especially young guys come to this town and they end up being disappointed as to what Las Vegas really is. Las Vegas is an awesome freaking city. It really is. But not just because of the party or the nightlife. It's a very well developed city. It's a very well organized city. And there's a lot of nature things to do that I don't think a lot of people are aware of. So I don't know what the internet would be like in some of the places that I liked to visit when I lived out here in Las Vegas, because I lived here for a couple of years before making my way back to the East Coast of America. But if I have to pre-record what I would like to record, I will. But I want the young guys who want to get into IRL and everything, or who want to become internet influencers, to have more of a realistic idea as to what's what and how to conduct yourself appropriately in public. And not only not embarrass yourself, but not offend other people. Because we all got to share this same country, the same planet. And we have to be kind to each other and not create environments to where people are afraid to participate in public activity. And that is something that OG Geezer is guilty of. He is making it to where people of color, namely men of color, may be afraid to participate in certain public activities, and that's not cool. He's too old for that shit. And truthfully, he's not smart enough or classy enough to be doing what he's doing at all. I don't even think he's educated. I've taken the time to really study him, and he's not that bright. He's just a bully. And I don't like bullies. You don't really? And see, that's a misconception about Las Vegas. DC Norway says they only disappointed by Vegas because they ain't got the fun money. There's levels to adventures and experiences. Yes and no. Anywhere you go, travel-wise, you can have fun with minimal money. All right? A lot of it has to do with educating yourself beforehand about where it is that you're visiting. But it's also about not being materialistic. It's about packing smart, traveling within your means. Here's another travel tip. And this is, again, for any woman, not just Black women. Really, I guess this travel tip could be for any person. If you want to travel extensively long term, find a remote online job. That way, as you travel, you can work. That's what I do. And it's easy to do, especially since the whole pandemic, COVID-19 thing happened. There are more online jobs than ever before. Everybody's hiring. A lot of people are like, oh, there's a job shortage. No, there's not. Actually, if you read some of the finance magazines, those magazines will reflect what I'm sharing with you. So, before you travel, secure yourself a remote job to where anywhere you have an internet connection, you can work. and do that for about 2, 3 months. That way you're used to your schedule, and then travel. You can do that. What I like to do is stay in each location about a week at a time. And that's how you can do it. Maybe you want to stay longer. Now, if you're looking to switch, travel throughout the US, staying only 2 or 3 days at a time in a place, that would be more difficult. I don't know if you would be able to hold down a remote job doing that. But if you stay in each place about a week at a time and you pick a specific day, your day off, to go to your next location, that's a way to be able to see America independently without saving a whole bunch of money first. All right, I'm looking at the chat again. Thank you, Meow. Be kind and hug each other. I will remember to drink plenty of water. Thank you, Bum Bum. All right, okay. Norway says, was more thinking the outdoor adventure gear you need to have a little more fun than a city experience. Well, your outdoor adventure gear, that's an investment. That's actually something that I do own, which is why if there's any men out there who are interested in dating me, I want you to know that for me to be interested in you, you do have to be someone who is a bit of an outdoorsman. Because believe it or not, I am a mild outdoors woman. I have camping gear, I have hiking gear, I have backpacking gear, I have all that kind of stuff. And that is something that I would like to do with somebody if I were to connect with someone and meet them and travel with them. I am not attracted to men who only want to be in the city. Not at all. Someone says riding horses is like animal slavery and needs to end. That's an interesting perspective. That is an interesting perspective. If the animal is bred and already in that situation and it's well taken care of, I'm not opposed to that, because a lot of horses that have been domesticated, they cannot survive on their own in the wild, and it's cruel just to release them, okay? But I can see your point. I mean, you could kind of say the same thing for canines and felines also, though, or any domesticated animal. I mean, even to a degree, humans have been domesticated. It just is what it is. Someone says that, or asked, am I aware of the reset that is coming and the dangers of the vax? No, I am not aware of that. I know that there's a lot of conspiracies and whatnot out there, and some of those conspiracies are not conspiracies, they're truth and they're valid, and that there's a lot of things coming. Let me tell you, a part of the reason that I decided to do my extensive traveling at this particular juncture in time has to do with me wanting to see America before certain things do change drastically. I've just had an intuitive feeling about that for a while. So I'm seeing what I can see while I can see it. Will I survive if certain things happen? I don't know. I have no idea. If I don't, I'm not leaving anybody behind because I don't have any children yet. I still could. Haven't gone through menopause. I have a period. I'm fertile as hell. But do I want to leave anybody behind in this world? Questionable. Very questionable, considering who is having the most children, really. The people who should be having children are not, and the people who shouldn't are. And that is not anything having to do with race, which isn't even real, can't be biologically quantified, or ethnicity, or culture, or anything, nationality. It's just that it seems to me like the most narcissistic and sociopathic of the lot are the ones who are having too many children and then not taking care of them and expecting other people to pick up the slack. And it's not our responsibility to raise your damn kids, whether they be minors or adults trying to find their way. That's part of the reason why I am not anti-pornography, because the pornography industry inadvertently became a catch-all for a lot of people who are the children of individuals who had absolutely absolutely no business having children. Adult entertainers are the result of bad parenting, period. And I'm not the one who came up with that. A gentleman who I at one point in time was very good friends with, who I haven't heard from forever, and I hope he's all right, known as Nick East, one of the most popular and well-regarded adult male entertainers that's ever been, came to that conclusion and shared it with me. And when he told that to me, I hated him for it. But he was right. Hope you're all right, Mr. Turner. Someone says they keep seeing the U.S. as the movie I Am Legend. You're not too far off. Someone in the chat is getting a little dirty. D. Henry says, I just want to say I want to lick your feet. Really? You want to lick my feet? I might let you. Thank you, Top Gun. Thank you. All I need in life is wine and cheese. Maybe I should move to France. A lot of people have told me that I should. But I don't speak French. So let's see, what else can we talk about? What else is on my mind? Well, being that I am going to be matriculating throughout the Las Vegas area, I do want to say, anyone who takes issue with me, just stay in your own lane. I'm too old for confrontations. I'm not looking to get into it with anybody. I do know the legalities. And, just stay in your own lane. That's all you got to do. Someone says, I don't want to go to France. Well, I do want to pop back over to Europe. Probably, I'm thinking summer of 2021. And then in 2022, I'm seriously considering being a TEFL and maybe spending a year over in East Asia. I am seriously considering that. TEFL, for those of you who are not aware, stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. I almost did that at one point in my 20s, but I didn't. But I'm thinking about doing it at this phase of my life. It probably wouldn't have been so safe for me to do it in my early 20s. But at this stage in the game, and this is another tip for women of color who want to solo travel, if you're able to, if you really want to do it in your 20s or 30s, at least try to go with a friend. But look, when you're in your late 30s on up, as a woman of color traveling, no one's really going to mess with you at all. They're just not. So that's a really good time. And as a woman of any ethnicity, mainly because when you're an older woman, you look like somebody's mom. And who's going to mess with mom? I'm not a mom, but still, seriously. When I'm older, I'm hoping that I can, have a guy that I'm with, whether it be romantic or platonic, who I can just live out the rest of my days in an RV with, RVing. Because since I've been on the road, I have encountered so many older RV couples. They are having such a freaking good time. When I was at that petrified national forest that I just recently posted the video of, oh my gosh. And they're such friendly people. They're always curious about you. But I think that they're especially curious about me in the Southwest because I do kind of look a little Native American. I'm not. At least I can't claim it because the Native Americans are snobs and you have to be a certain percentage. But I do have Native American within me on my mother's side. Possibly on my father's side too, through his mother, but I'm not sure. One day I will do the ancestry genetic test. I haven't wanted to because I don't like the idea of anybody having my DNA, but I'm already in my 40s. I just, if I do it, I am going to get a legal stipulation written up to where they cannot clone me. I don't want anybody cloning me. Not at all. I'm not down with that. Because I think I'm somebody that they would try to clone. I'm uniquely exquisite. I am. I'm very rare. You don't see a lot of what I am. Drama-free life is a happy life? Damn straight. Have I visited somewhere that is racist or just different than you're used to? The most racist location that I've visited so far was Nashville, Tennessee, surprisingly. But look, if you look at my Nashville, Tennessee IRL stream, or even the travel highlights, I had such an awesome experience that day because I got to see what was really going on in the downtown Nashville area, okay? Nobody was outwardly racist toward me to where I felt like, ooh, racism. It wasn't like that. But there was a bit of a negative energy undertone that I could feel. It was a predominantly white area from my perspective, okay? I did not stay in a guest house in Nashville, Tennessee, by the way. I stayed at a privately rented apartment. So I didn't really encounter anybody when I first crash landed there, right? When I decided to do my IRL stream, I went down to, what do they call it? Music Row. Nobody who was not of color talked to me that whole time I was there, aside from the Uber driver, who was a white male of Jewish descent. And that was the one who picked me up. The one who dropped me off was a white American male from Florida, ironically, which is where I'm from, Southeast Florida. That's where I departed from. I actually was born in Kirkland, Washington, outside of Seattle. Grew up in Spring, Texas, which is outside of Houston. But from when I was 14 years old on up, I predominantly lived in Southeast Florida, Miami area. All right? But yeah, the whole time I was down there, not one white person talked to me in Nashville on Music Row. I thought that was odd. I didn't realize it actually until I got back to my apartment that night. But every person of color who was down there, and there weren't very many of us, we all kind of congregated together because I think we were all having the same experience. They all talked to me. There was a guy from the ASPCA who sought me out, basically. There was a young artist and I still haven't listened to a CD. I need to listen to a CD because the only place I have a CD player is in my car. So I've got his CD, and I want to make sure I give him some promotion on a couple of my websites. He talked to me, a multiracial girl who worked at the bar where I stopped and had a drink. And ironically, I met the founder just by chance of the and it hasn't even opened yet. At least I don't think it has. It might have opened this week, but I am going to go back to check it out. The African American Smithsonian linked Music History Museum. The owner, I was just walking around streaming, and he came up to me and wanted to tell me about the museum. That was odd. That was actually a really cool experience. I almost wonder if like the powers that be, because I've always thought for a while that I might be monitored by the Illuminati. Just kidding, maybe. But he came up and he was talking about, he was like, hey, you know, I see you're filming. And I'm like, yeah, I'm live. And I think his name was Don Harding or Don Harden, something like that. He's an African-American entrepreneur. Very, very well-to-do, incredibly dynamic man who decided to create the African American Music History Museum right smack dab in the middle of Nashville, Tennessee. And I have an exclusive interview with him, and I wasn't even looking for it. So lucky me. Anyway, I'm going to go back to that Music History Museum and you know, write some sort of an article about it to submit to some magazines, because I want to make sure everybody knows about that museum. But yeah, I think Nashville has some sort of a latent racism issue when it comes to African Americans, but maybe that African American Music History Museum will help to rectify that. But so far, that's been the most racist environment I've been in since I've traveled. I haven't encountered any other racism. Someone says I'm too young to be a MILF. Oh, I love you. Wow. I'm a cougar, baby. All right. I don't know who that is, but we're going to go ahead and hide them from the channel. I'm actually from a small city between Miami and West Palm Beach. If you research me enough, it's easy to figure out. So I hope that answered that question. To the person being mean, known as fatty, you obviously don't get it, so you should probably leave my channel. I'm not for everybody. I'm for a certain sect of the population, not for everybody. So let me think, is there anything else I want to talk about? Traveling solo, it's not that expensive. You would be surprised. Like I said, I would suggest going from major city to major city. Drive. I probably overpacked when I think about it, but as I'm traveling, I'm producing art and also writing music. So I had to bring certain pieces of equipment with me. But you don't need to have like a giant SUV if you're a solo traveler. You just need a little car. That's it. I highly advise, like I said, stay on a private property if possible. And instead of eating out every day, go to your local grocery store and buy your groceries. That right there saves you a lot of money. It's also healthier for you. Let's see what else is important that a lot of people wouldn't know about solo travel. just realize that for the most part, people are more interested in meeting you than you are them. Don't be shy. If you can bring your cell phone so you have internet with you, do that. Try to join some sort of online communities if you can. That way, if you don't make any friends in the cities that you're visiting, you still have your online community to rely on for social and moral support. Try to have a hobby to bring along with you. With me, I like to paint, okay? But maybe you like to write music. Maybe, I don't know, you like to draw. Maybe you just are trying to work out and get in shape while you're traveling. So all those things are things that will make you feel a lot more at peace when you're on the road. Let me think, is there anything else that I want to share? I usually make some notes. I'm going to see if there's any notes. No, I didn't. I didn't make any extensive notes for this podcast. All right, someone here, let me show this comment. They say, I'm surprised it was Nashville. I've never been there, but I hear it's nice people. I'm in Minnesota, and they say Minnesota is nice, and there's a lot of assholes around. Well, I thought Nashville did have nice people. Like I said, nobody called me the N-word or anything, but they weren't welcoming exactly. It felt segregated. It felt very segregated. I think it's something that if you're not a person of color, you wouldn't notice. That's what I don't think a lot of white people understand about what it is to be a person of color. As a person of color, you notice more things than a white person does, or someone who defines themselves as white or who passes as white. I've actually found over the years that there are people of color who pass as white who white people don't notice for some reason. It's like they can't see a certain something that people of color see. It's the strangest thing. That's why people who pass as white, who have roots within communities of color, generally are the most racist people. They stay away from people of color because they don't want to be found out. That's who the real racists are. It's not the people of Nordic descent. It's the people passing. But we'll talk about that another day. No, I don't know Alicia Tease. To the person being rude to me in my chat, all I got to say to you is, and just make sure that I never find out who you actually are. There's a lot of people who need to make sure that I never find out who they are. Because I'm not the person that you think I am. So that's about it for tonight. Thank you all for hanging out with me for a bit. And look forward to my upcoming streams. They're going to be freaking awesome. See ya.